Music's effect on the world as on the whole is profound. Humanity creates music for every situation we're in. No matter how dire the situation, there's almost always a music response. So for Jews in the middle of the Holocaust, there was a lot of brand new music that was created, even in the concentration camps. It has the power to unify people. It has the power to spread peace. It has the power to divide us, I suppose, if it's meant in protest. But oftentimes it's used to call attention to something that people should know about. And with that, I mean, like, it's one of the most powerful agents for change in the world.
While most people don't know the reason why the war started, everybody knows the music that followed it. I'm Matthew Morgan, and in this program we will look at why music is the only thing that stands through war. But what is a war? You may think about soldiers being sent off with their rifles to win against the enemy. But what about the wars fought at home? Politics is a war that's been going on since America was born. Rage Against the Machine fills their music with their political views mixed in with thunderous drum hits, followed by bass licks that get people moving. All of this is brought together by Tom Morello's screaming guitar licks and Zach De La Rocha's rapping. One of their biggest hits, Killing in the Name, is filled with rails against police brutality, still a present debate today. Everybody has a system they want to rage against, and Rage Against the Machine only amplified people's opinions. What do you think when you hear this song? You probably think of Vietnam or patriotism, but did you know this song is actually in protest of the Vietnam War? Elton John once said, "Music has healing power. It has the ability to take people out of themselves for a couple of hours." And after the Vietnam War, everybody needed to heal. An extremely gruesome war full of deception and overall confusion left Americans more confused than they had ever been. To help understand their confusion, people turned to music so they felt they had a voice. Songs like Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival, Ohio by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, and Give Peace a Chance by Plastic Ono Band. These songs defined the 60s and 70s and is exactly what protest music is. To help elaborate on this point, I interviewed a Vietnam War veteran, a music teacher at Riverside Brookfield High School, and a historian from S.E. Gross Middle School.
So these artists, like the ones I mentioned, Pete Seeger, Joan Baez, and Bob Dylan especially, begin to become activists in their own right, writing protest music. Not protesting the man, but protesting the war in Vietnam. And that's what a lot of artists, including bands like the Beatles, began to look to. They didn't want to write silly pop songs anymore. Artists felt they had something to say. And Bob Dylan, here in America, proved that you could play rock and roll and provide a very deep, meaningful lyric, a very storytelling lyric about the times.
What was We Got to Get Out of This Place. That was popular. All the songs that the kids were digging, we did too, because we were kids too, just like they were. We just happened to have different uniforms and shorter hair.
Bob Dylan is one of the few artists that actually influenced the Beatles after the Beatles had already been formed and created, and where John Lennon really wanted to step up his game and write songs that mattered. And that's where you see John Lennon that becomes an activist in his own right, a peace activist through into the 1970s as well. But many rock stars, Crosby, Stills and Nash, the Byrds, many of the California scene out of San Francisco, Los Angeles, bands like that began to then also write protest songs. Simon and Garfunkel, the Grateful Dead to an extent, bands out of New York City, Greenwich Village was more of a folk scene. San Francisco is more of the psychedelic scene, but still it's always peace and love. That's what Woodstock becomes. The Woodstock concert, 1968, 1969, becomes this huge event of, peace, love, and music.
While bands had been speaking about Vietnam before it became mainstream, Woodstock helped catapult protest music into the spotlight. A concert that would live in infamy for being completely peaceful. This concert ended up being synonymous with peace and hippies. Multiple bands played in protest of Vietnam at Woodstock.
Then rock and roll becomes fully acceptable like it is today, everyone likes it. But at the time, it was very rebellious. And I think kids, young people, college kids felt an identity that this was theirs. And they were going to use this music to end the war and to change society. So the 1960s, I think, are probably the greatest example of music playing a part in politics and society and culture, where you can really look at the music and identify the era and the times.
These songs in protest of Vietnam were never meant to be against the people serving. It was the idea of war itself people were against.
I never felt they were against us. I felt they were against the war itself, not the kids who were there.
Yeah.
You know.
I can understand
Politically, of course I can understand it, why people are against the war. But again, I never, California was kind of, they overreacted to stuff. But being a veteran here in Chicago was always gold. If I went to a restaurant, they had me in uniform, they'd buy you drinks and buy you dinner. They were nice to us. I never had to suffer any bad feedback from that.
While Vietnam is a huge part of history, it's only a small part of music's history as a whole. James Baum, music teacher at Riverside Brookfield High School, puts it best.
Yeah, music's effect on the world as on the whole is profound. You know, humanity creates music for every situation we're in. No matter how dire the situation, there's almost always a music response.
Vietnam was heavily affected by music, but that isn't the first and definitely not the last example of music's effect on society or war. A recent example is American Idiot by Green Day in response to the sense of nationalism and patriotism formed after 9/11. Music will continue to have a lasting effect on the world, and that's why music is the only thing that stands through war. I'm Matthew Morgan, and thanks for watching this program.